Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Around the Nation right here. Hold on. Do I have it? No, okay, good. For a second I thought we were muted. So we're good. Hey everybody, welcome to Around the Nation. I'm your host, Jeff Waldorf. Running the whole damn thing by myself. So I'm surprised I have it all together today or at any point in time. But welcome to the show. We're going to have a good show for you regardless of any issues. We have it's Friday. It's the end of the week. We got great stories. We're also going to open up the lines, 989-796-4975. You guys want to call in. I'll put the number up because I got like a graphic. I think maybe I'll put that up now. We'll get rid of this. Hey, look at that. It's a phone number. So, Around the Nation, yep, call us, 989-796-4975, or add us on TYT Nation on Skype if you want to get a hold of the show. If I'm in the middle of a segment, just hold on, stay on the line, or if you get disconnected, call back. We'll try to get some calls in there, but again, we've got some really great stories, so I want to break that down for you right now. We have a new report of just how many times, how much more CEOs make than your average worker. Another new report and some pushback from that. We'll talk about that. We have the Republican overtime bill. We're going to talk about that today. Then we've got an amazing rant by a constituent challenging their congressman on that. Like this is Tom MacArthur, by the way. We're going to be talking about. He's the guy who saved Trumpcare. So he goes back to do a town hall, and he just gets decimated. I'm going to show you the best one. Because there was a rant by this guy who was a constituent that is absolutely amazing. It's got the internet on fire, and I'm going to show that to you. Then we have Donald Trump threatening James Comey. Very interesting. And Jeff Sessions. So if we can get to that. What Jeff Sessions is planning to do with some of Obama's orders on drugs. So fun times. We're going to have a good show for you guys today. And, of course, the show is brought to you by Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation. If you want to be a patron and help out independent progressive media, go ahead and sign up there. New patrons, Fan. Thank you, Fan. John Michael Boublon. I don't know if I said that right. But thank you, John. And Christopher Hunter. So, thank you, Fawn, John, and Chris. You guys are helping to make independent progressive media. Like, you're helping us. You're helping us stay on the air. You're helping us keep us corporate sponsored free. So thank you so much. Like, I keep reading, like, Adpocalypse not going away. There's another article out today. I'm not sure. Like, I took it with a little grain of salt because this guy also ran a video platform. So I was like, I don't know. Could be he's trying to cash into some competition. But as for right now, Adpocalypse, for a lot of us, still going on. For some of the big channels, kind of going away. But smaller creators, still in a lot of trouble. So that's why Patreon, and that's why, of course, we're going to try to do some other things too. To try to get some revenue coming into the show. But anyway, that's just off to an aside there. But hey, it's good to let you guys know what's going on with the show and whether or not we can still do it. For right now, you guys are saving the show, so I couldn't thank you enough for it. All right. Anyway, so let's get to some stories here, and we'll start out. We'll do some stuff on workers, because again, that's kind of my thing, because I was one of those workers that worked in manufacturing. I'll get into that a little bit in the story. All right. Now, how bad is income inequality these days? Well, according to the nation's leading trade union, pretty bad. Like, really bad. Now, according to a new online database that pretty much anybody can use, corporate executives are now taking in about 347 times the average worker salary. So they're taking in 347 times more than the average worker. Jeez and Lord mercy. That is a lot of money. Now, this comes from the AFL-CIO, which is that major trade union, Executive Pay Watch. Now, it's a searchable online database that tracks CEO pay. Now, it found that the average CEO of an S&P 500 company made approximately $13.1 million in 2016. Whew. That is a lot of money, $13.1 million. In comparison, production and non-supervisory workers, the guys on the floor, right, who are doing the hard work, they earned $37,632 on average last year, according to this database. Now, that's a big, big, big difference, okay? And that doesn't include people who make minimum wage. See, $37,000 a year, if you're making $37,000 a year, you're actually not doing too bad. You're one of the fortunate ones. $37,000 a year roughly breaks down to about 19 something an hour. So you kind of round up like basically 20 bucks an hour. That's still a pretty decent amount of money. Okay. Look, a lot of people in the Rust Belt here, Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, unless you're working at, Ford or GM or any of the big plants in Detroit, you are not making $20 an hour. I know I worked in the auto industry. I didn't even make anywhere close to $20 an hour. So, I mean, so what you have is you have people who make minimum wage or $9 an hour or $10 an hour versus those who make $13 an hour, $15 an hour versus 20 people who make $20 an hour. And then you compare that to what the CEOs make. It can be pretty clear when you look at all that the CEOs are just crushing everybody. They're destroying everyone when it comes to wages. We have been left in the dust, workers. Sad. Now, this year's report, according to AFL-CIO President Richard Trumka, said this year's report provides further proof that the greed of corporate CEOs is driving America's income inequality crisis. And now, that is absolutely true. So, unfortunately, he said big corporations continue to find ways to rig the economy in their favor and line their CEOs' pockets at the expense of the workers who make their businesses run. Now, there is one of my favorite things to point out, stats to point out, is the workers' wage versus productivity chart. I don't know if I have that on hand. I'm going to see if I have that graphic. That's not it. I don't know if I have that. Damn, because that is one of the best graphics. I know you guys have seen that. The workers versus productivity chart, or wages versus productivity. Basically, wages have flatlined, productivity has shot through the roof. Interesting, right? And there are other charts that you can compare that to versus like CEO pay and taxation on the wealthiest Americans, which has dropped. So there's a lot of different data points that you can compare to show that the CEOs, as their taxes have went down, wages have also went down, and yet CEO pay continues to increase as everybody else's standard of living tends to drop. So now this means, look, Americans are more productive than they ever have been, right? They're working harder. They're you guys are out there busting your asses every day, but you're not seeing any of the gains. You're not seeing anything from it. You're getting barely enough to pay the bills. I know, I've worked in the factories. I've been there before. I welded bumpers. I ran machines. I did plastic injection molds. It is hot, thankless work. And it deserves a decent living wage. Now, let me give you an example. I worked at a place that was capped at $11 an hour. That's it. You can't go any higher than $11 an hour. I don't know if that's changed, but that's pretty bad. And this, again, was related to the automotive industry. And it's very, very likely that people don't start out at $11 an hour. They start out at $8 an hour, $9 an hour, $10. And look, if productivity had kept up with inflation, workers would be making at least $22 an hour. So, and the problem here is that the companies seem to refuse to invest in their workers. A previous report found that, for example, during the last tax holiday, after large corporations stashed billions into their tax-free havens overseas, instead of paying their fair share in taxes, the Bush administration stupidly allowed them to bring back that money at a very, very low tax rate, as long as they promised to create jobs. Well, what happened? Well, they brought that money back, and then they fired people. they fired somewhere around 20,000 people from some of the top companies that got money back through repatriation. And then what they used the money for? If they didn't invest in their business, if they weren't creating jobs, what were they doing with the money? Well, they were doing stock buybacks. So they buy their own stock to inflate their own company's net worth. And then they could pay their executives even bigger bonuses. They don't invest in their workers. They don't increase wages. In fact, they do the opposite. They lobby in order to keep the minimum wage low, and then they also lobby to reduce their own taxes. So they're just hoarding that money. They're just keeping it to themselves. Now, of course, there are groups that represent these same large corporations. Well, they have an issue with this report. One of them is the so-called Center for Union Facts. Oh, I love this. Now, they claim that they analyzed these statistics in union disclosure forms, and they found that the U.S. executive only made $194,350. Not $13.1 million. Oh, see, look at that. Our CEOs are so underpaid. Look, they're only making almost $200,000. So underpaid. How dare you say that they made $13.1 million? Does that include things like stock buybacks or stock options and other perks? Because look, there are CEOs that have found ways in order to dodge income taxes by taking small cash salaries, right? And just having all of their stuff tied up in stocks, bonds, and things that would give them a dividend. Now, stuff like that gets taxed at a lower rate than just straight up income. So, there's that. Now, the group further claimed that it's not just the CEOs that are actually making money. No, it's not the CEOs that are doing well. It's actually the union bosses. Those big, bad union bosses taking all that money. In fact, according to their counter study, 192 union presidents made more than CEOs on average. Center for Union Facts spokesman Luca Lawton called the AFL-CIO's findings, quote, misleading. By attacking business leaders with cherry-picked data, labor leaders are glossing over their own startling pay discrepancies. The AFL-CIO and its affiliated unions would be better off figuring out how to effectively serve their disgruntled members than scoring cheap PR points. Now, I love how this group says, look away, look away, look away. It's the union's fault. It's all the unions. It's their fault. They're actually making more money than our poor, embattled CEOs. Look, man, let me show you the difference between a union and non-union shop. Because I've worked in both, okay? Now, in a union shop, I was paid better. And I was actually treated better by management because I actually had a voice and a stake in the company. When I worked in a non-union shop, I was actually paid less and treated like shit, like a disposable cog. There's kind of your difference. There's a respect thing. When you're in a union shop, you actually get respected as a worker. I know, it's crazy. Because it turns out unions are helpful to workers and they actually hold management accountable. It's supposed to be a place where or a collection of people that stand up and argue for fair wages and have that kind of power to bargain. That's the whole point, to collectively bargain. Now, a lot of workers, sorry, not workers, but a lot of companies, most companies, they hate that. They're like, ooh, no, we do not want to negotiate with you as a force because you can actually stand up to us. But if it's you on your own without a union, well, we can crush you and we can fire you and you will have no recourse. They hate unions. Now, this group, the Center for Union Facts, they go on this attack. Oh, look at how much Richard Trumka makes. Oh, man, he's making $250,000, $300,000 a year. Get him. He's making more than the CEOs. But more importantly, he's making more than you. You got to go after him. It's clearly divide and conquer. You're trying to turn workers against unions so the big companies can do no more to pick your pockets. It's the oldest trick in the book. Don't fall for it. That and conflating big business, which obviously do have the advantages, versus small businesses that do not. Okay, they're trying to conflate the two. Big business is small business is big business. They're all getting crushed. No, the S&P 500, they looked at that, and the average is 13.1 million. You're not in the S&P 500 unless you're actually a very big business and you're making a lot of money. Now, it turns out that small businesses are the ones that are getting their asses kicked. They're stuck paying the taxes that big multinational corporations can skip out of. A lot of small businesses also try to pay their workers well. And look, understandably, some are not able to. Some cannot. But these companies, the big companies, these giant corporations, they have no excuse. If your CEO is bringing home more than 350 times what your workers are making, and you're stashing your money overseas, and then you're buying congressmen to make that kind of shit legal, to lower your own taxes, well, then you exemplify the greed that has been destroying America. See, without fair tax rates, higher taxes on the wealthiest Americans, and lower taxes for the people in the lower brackets, strong unions, and strong labor laws, well, this disparity is going to continue to grow and grow until it gets out of control. And it's going to have some very negative effects. We've already seen them here in America. High unemployment, increased strain on social safety nets, bigger government debts and deficits, sagging sales for companies, lower economic growth. That's the stuff that we're seeing in America right now. We're seeing that all today. But there was a time in America where we had lower inequality and we actually had a better economy. That was back in the 1950s and 60s. Ironically, when conservatives say, oh, what a golden age, what a wonderful age, we should go back to that. Okay, let's go back to those tax rates where we had marginal taxes, 70%. In some cases, there a little bit of period of time where it was up to 90%. Now, I have to mention that is marginal tax rates. And also on the very, very, very wealthiest percentage of Americans. The people with the obscene amount of wealth. Anything above a certain amount, a certain point of income, any dollar above that would be taxed at 90%. It's not like they come and take like you're sitting at home, you're a middle class person, you're working your ass off. They take 90% of your paycheck. That's ridiculous. Anybody who tells you that is lying to your face or doesn't understand how marginal tax rates actually work. When they do this, when they have those high marginal tax rates, lots and lots of different brackets, and they tax people according to their ability to pay in a progressive tax system, well, that actually helps the economy. That actually helps, it helps investment. And, you know, they'll take what's left, they'll invest in their business because they want to grow their business instead of having it taxed. They're not going to hide it overseas. Okay, they're actually going to invest in their workers. Because it turns out that when you do that, you actually have happier, more productive workers. And if you put money in the pockets of regular people, well, they're going to spend that money. It's going to go back into the economy instead of hoard it. And unfortunately, that's what we have going on today. We have low tax rates, and we still have companies hoarding money overseas. It's not going back in the economy. And you're having a middle class that is stagnating, and you're having a poorer class, working class, that has gotten even poorer. This is the problem here. Okay? Sweden did the right thing. Sweden actually is doing the opposite of what we're doing right now, and their economy is booming. What we're doing right now today is wrong. We shouldn't be lowering taxes on giant corporations. We should be raising them. And I'm not saying anything crazy like 70 to 90%, but we should be raising them, not talking about lowering them. The Trump administration wants to slash corporate taxes to 15%. Why? So they can hoard more money? Ridiculous. It's not going to work. You can't cut your way to prosperity. No, we have to fix this system. Okay? We have to do the opposite of what we're doing so that working people, working families can get a bigger slice of the pie that they actually work for. It's good for the workers. It's good for society. And it's even good for some of the companies because more money in people's pockets equals more business, equals more sales. And so at some point, taxes are going to be so low for the rich. And it's going to basically starve the middle class and the poor of revenue of the money that they actually need to buy stuff. And then they can't afford to buy that stuff. Well, what are companies going to do when people can't afford their products? They're not going to be in business much anymore. So we've got to fix this. We have to fix this system before it gets... look, we're already past a point, I think, where we should have had this fixed years ago. But it's not too late. We can still reduce the levels of income inequality so that we can have a more fair, a more equitable distribution of wealth in this country. And trust me, that's going to be good for everybody. Okay. I'm sorry, that ran a little long. I know I had a call in the middle there, so if you could call back here real quick, I'll give you a minute while I read your guys some of your comments. So if you want to give me a call, let me put the number up here. It is 989-796-4975, TYT Nation on Skype. So please give me a call. If you have a question or a comment or whatever, it's Friday. So I know, like I said, it's always weird to... Here we go. We actually do have a call. All right. Hey, you're on the air. Question, comment, or whatever.
Yeah, hey Jeff, how you doing? I'm a big fan of your show, and I was wanting to talk about the tax rate that Trump's proposing, and I was wanting to know, like, how many senators do you think will actually vote for this? Even like some of the so-called moderate Republicans, would they even vote for it?
I think they would. Look, Republicans haven't met a tax cut they didn't like, unless it was for the middle class. Because if you can remember, one of the other during the Obama administration, they wanted to cut taxes for the middle class, increase the earned income tax credit. Republicans voted against that. They're like, no, we don't care about cutting taxes for the middle class. What we want to do is we want to cut taxes for the corporations. Those are our donors. So, of course, they're going to back that. Maybe not all Republicans, and it depends what riders that they attach to this and how they try to get it through, whether or not they put it in through a budget or not. And I don't know if they're going to pass a straight or try to pass a straight, like, clean tax cut bill. I don't think that's something that happens. I think they're going to try to pass it through a budget. So it all depends. There's going to be some wrangling, but I don't really see the current Republican budget that Paul Ryan has been putting out there as passing with any sort of Democratic support. Though I do think there will be enough, at least enough Republican support. Not all of them, I think, will go for it, but I think most of them will, because again, this is what they want. This is the kind of legislation that Republicans have been looking forward to. I mean, they want this stuff. They love these tax cuts, and especially if they're punishing to regular people.
Yeah, like, is there a way then, like, as a people, like, how we could, like, prevent this petition or any type of, like, statute we would be able to use to, like, prevent this, or are we just fucked until 2018?
Well, I wouldn't say we're fucked until 2018. The best thing to do is just to keep going to those town halls, yelling at your congressman, making sure that they know that you're watching them. And the other thing is to get other people involved, regular people involved. Like people who don't necessarily follow politics all that much. Let them know, hey man, this is how you're going to screw you. And you need to get involved and go to these town halls and call your congressman and send them letters and say, we don't like the kind of bill that you're proposing. And also the important thing too is to try to vote for progressives and to replace those congressmen who would vote for these kind of giant ridiculous tax cuts, and try to get progressives in and do what you can. Or if there's nobody else running to challenge that, consider running yourself.
True that. I hear that. Thank you, man. I appreciate it, brother.
All right. Thank you so much for your call.
Appreciate everything you do, bro.
All right. So,
all right, man.
Thanks for the call. Definitely appreciate it. Okay. So let's get into the next story here, and then afterwards, we'll see about taking another call. So that is, let me show you the number again here. That is 989-796-4975, TYT Nation on Skype. All right. So I want to talk about the wage theft bill, because this was something that passed the House not too long ago, but I never got a chance to talk about it. Now, recently, the Republicans passed a bill to change the overtime rules in order to, in their words, increase flexibility and help workers. Well, as you're about to see, that it does neither, actually. It actually does the opposite. It helps the companies, and it increases their flexibility with your money. Now, it is called the Working Families Flexibility Act, and I love the Orwellian name here. And basically what it would do is it will allow employers and their workers to enter into arrangements that reward extra work with extra time off instead of money. specifically 1.5 hours of compensatory time off for each hour worked beyond 40. Now, workers who don't end up using their time off would actually get paid out at a later date. Now, you might be thinking, wait a minute. That doesn't sound too bad. 1.5 hours of time off for each hour worked? Wow, that's actually a pretty good deal. What are you libs complaining about? I mean, this sounds great. I'd love to be able to trade my time. Well, it sounds fine in theory, but the devil's in the details. Let me explain. Even though the workers would have a choice between that extra time and extra pay, a coercive boss could end up putting pressure on employees to take the hours rather than to take the pay. So even if you don't want to take the hours off, no, I need my paycheck. I don't want that time off. Are you sure? Your job might be on the line on this. Come on, take the time off. Take the time off. I don't want to pay you right now. They can do that. They're not supposed to do that, but they could do that. As the Huffington Post explains, it would amount to an interest-free loan for the employer. What's more, the boss ultimately controls when your comp time is used. Now, it says that this bill gives the employers the leeway to turn down requests to use comp time if it, quote, unduly disrupts the operations of the employer. So that's incredibly vague. So what constitutes a disruption? A disruption to the operation. Say you want to take a vacation. Hey man, I got all this time banked off. I worked all this overtime and I've banked up about a week, right? A week's worth of paid time off. I want to take it. I got a vacation. I've been planning to go on a vacation with my family. I need that time off. Ooh, sorry, that's disruptive. So when can I take a vacation? Well, how about Christmas? Ooh, no, sorry, that's also disruptive. When can I? I don't know. I'll let you know a couple of days before that. Or whenever I feel like it. And I can take it away at any time. Well, then when am I going to get my money? Well, that actually is addressed later. Now, if an employer tires of waiting and asks instead for the pay, employers could take up to 30 days to honor that request. If any employee quits or a company goes out of business, unpaid overtime could be difficult or impossible to extract from the employer. So there's an obvious issue. 30 days. I asked for the vacation. They wouldn't give it to me because it was disrupting their operations. Okay, so I want to get paid. Well, now I got to wait an extra month just to get my money. And if, again, and they mentioned if it goes out of business or if something happens, well, sorry, sad day. You're never going to see your money. We just stole that money from you. And we put it in our pocket. Nothing you can do. Now, Republicans, people who support the bill, will be like, whoa, hold on here. Hold on. That, you know, we have protections in here against that. The article mentions that Republicans have placed protections to try to prevent such situations. For instance, the bill states clearly that employers cannot intimidate or coerce workers on the overtime in question, and when they do, they will be liable not just for the overtime pay, but for damages. Now, that protection, however, is predicated on workers filing federal complaints against their bosses, and those complaints being investigated by a labor department whose funding Republicans want to cut. Oops, did we just destroy your only recourse? Sad. We took your money, and we defunded the labor department, so there's nothing you can do about it. Haha, sad. Now, not only that, right, but did you know, and I didn't, current law already allows for this flexibility in worker schedules. Employers actually can let employees vary their start and end times, schedule 10-hour workdays with an extra day off each week, or 9-hour workdays with a day off every other week. Now, I had no idea that you could actually do that. Usually when they tell you you need to work between this time and this many days a week, well, that's usually how it goes. Now, another criticism here comes from Celine McNichols, a labor lawyer with the left-leaning Economic Policy Institute. Now, she said that the proposed reforms ignore the power balance that's at present inside of a real-world workplace. She said it sets up a dynamic for the first time since the law was created that employees are going to have to ask to be paid overtime that they've earned. McNichols said sitting down with employees employers in electing to choose comp time or to be paid to the overtime they've earned, we know in reality what those situations can look like in terms of pressure. Now, again, I did mention that there are certain protections against that. Now, another another argument from supporters of the bill says that, hey man, public workers already have those same options. Why is it fair for public government workers to have this choice and not for the private sector? Well, again, on its face, it sounds like, okay, you could make an actual argument that, oh, maybe that isn't fair. Maybe private workers should have this same option. Well, the thing is that unlike the private sector, those workers are often in unions, and a government employer doesn't actually have the same profit incentive as somebody in the private sector, meaning it's more likely that your employer doesn't want to honor that agreement because they end up making more money if they steal yours. I mean, that actually is like, hey man, I'm going to get more money if I take yours. So I'm going to take your money, and you're not going to have any recourse because we lobbied the Republicans to take away your take away the Labor Department. Sad. Now, you will also have no union behind you, very likely, and you're going to get cheated. More likely, you're going to get cheated by your own employer, and that they'll end up getting away with it. That's why this bill is a bad idea. It's basically an invitation to wage theft, which is already a huge problem in the fast food industry, which again, no unions and little recourse for them to do. I would beware of legislation like this, especially with these Orwellian names, okay? Because it's the Working Families Flexibility Act. Anything with family, flexibility, or even workers, you got to watch out for it, man. You can almost guarantee it's going to be harmful to all of those things. So be careful with bills like this. Make sure to read it. Make sure to know what you're in it before you, or what's actually in it before you support it, because it's very, very likely that these congressmen are going to come up with a piece of legislation that ends up screwing you in the end, because they work for giant corporations and not for you. Okay. All right. Hey, Friday show. Give us a call, 989-796-4975. TYT Nation on Skype. So there's the number on the screen if you want to give us a call. If so, we'll move to one of the best stories, one of my favorite stories of the day. This is great. And let me turn back to that. All right. And if I don't answer right away, you can always get a hold of me after the story. So, hey, look at that. I've got a call. Hey, you're on the air. What's your name and comment or question?
Thanks for the call.
Can you hear me?
Appreciate it.
I can.
Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you. There's a little bit of echo in the background. So if you have it on like the radio or something, turn it down. I don't know if it's on the radio or not, or get some earbuds or something.
I have you on phone, so I'm gonna turn you down. Sorry.
Okay. You're good. What's up, man?
Hey Jeff, this is Andrew from Philadelphia. I'd like to make a comment on Kellyanne Conway appearing on Anderson Cooper's CNN show. And
oh, that was fun.
Comment. Honestly, I don't know why people find it sexist for Cooper to roll eyes at Kellyanne Conway, since he's always made stupid ass shit comments. Pretty much since she's been hired by Trump throughout his campaign and throughout his presidency. Honestly, he's made the comment that we'd all make. I mean, not the comment, the reaction we'd all make when it comes to Conway, since she's, always defended Trump for every dumb thing he's ever done. And for her to just, to go on Fox and Friends is not even expected, but for her to make her reaction, it just makes me even more furious of her presence as in our existence in this world, because everything she says just not only makes you want to roll your eyes at her, it makes you want to punch a wall, or punch your hand to a wall, if not, feel like punching her in the face. I'm so sorry. But
I wouldn't advocate that.
I'm sorry. I can't stand her, but I commend Cooper, even if he didn't know he was on camera, or if he did, for making that reaction just out loud in front of everyone.
Yeah, look, trust me, dude. We all roll our eyes at Kellyanne Conway. She says the most ridiculous stuff. Has nothing to do with her being a woman. That is ridiculous. I understand that there's all sorts of sexism that's going on. Every woman in media does face a lot of criticism and does face a lot of sexism. And we can be honest about that. But it's got nothing to do with whether she's a woman or not. When it came to Anderson Cooper, it has everything to do with her being stupid and saying stupid things.
Absolutely.
And don't, like, if you don't want to have people roll your eyes, then stop saying things that are easily provable lies.
Absolutely.
At least if you're going to lie, be good at it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, if you're going to lie to people, at least be good at it. She's not good at it, and she came up with alternative facts. That's why she's so absolutely frustrating, is that she's just a complete liar, and she's bad at it.
Yes, exactly. And considering the person she works for,
yes.
He's the ultimate sexist, and yet she calling Anderson Cooper sexist? I've never seen him make any such remark in my life. And the fact that she would call him out like that just pisses me off. It's the ultimate irony and the ultimate hypocritical thing she's ever done, especially when it came from what has happened throughout the Trump presidency so far.
Right.
It's disgusting.
It's the ultimate pot calling the kettle black.
Absolutely. I can't stand her one bit, but after this, I feel like she needs to be off our television screens now. She needs to be out of a job now. And basically, what she is just like cancer. Every time you see her on television screens, you just want to change the channel or throw your TV out the window because. But then again, she's working for the biggest cancer you've ever seen on television right now. So what am I talking about?
Yeah, I think she's a walking parody or a caricature. She's like the embodiment of like the just all the lies. Like, I guess you could kind of split up his Trump's cabinet as little reflections of who he is. And it's amazing that I haven't seen this before. Spicer is kind of the rage, right? Because, he freaks out and flips out all the time when he's on the air. And that's, by the way, what I love about the SNL creation of him with Melissa McCarthy, just the flip outs of Sean Spicer. And then you have the... Yeah, and then you have the lying, the part of him that's a serial liar represented in Kellyanne Conway. The racism reflected in Steve Bannon. And all the Goldman Sachs people are representative of Trump's greed. So it's almost like you could see the different pieces of Trump's personality broken up into the different people that he hired for different cabinet positions.
Absolutely. And it's funny you mentioned SNL because they really could not make that up into something funny because we already see the comedy in what's happening in real life right now. But they somehow made it even more hilarious and even more telling in these people. It's brilliant the way they put it together. And funny you mentioned that and Melissa McCarthy right now because she's hosting this weekend.
Oh, yeah.
So I can't wait to see what they're going to do.
I'm looking forward
with
to
Sean Spicer, who has pretty much become her at this point, or she's become Sean Spicer at this point because of how identical they look and how much comedy they put into it.
Yeah.
Which is very little, but they still made it hilarious. So I cannot wait to see what they're going to do this time.
It's great.
Her as Spicer. And as Kellyanne Conway, I can't wait to see what they might do with her and the Anderson Cooper thing. So to parry Steve Bannon as the Grim Reaper is just nothing sort of brilliant right there because he is kind of like the Grim Reaper at this point, really. So,
satire is having kind of a hard time, but at the same time, they've got so much to work with. So at the same time, like what was satire has become real, and now comedy is also actually a little bit easier because you can point out just like you don't even have to do anything. You just point out this is what Trump said, and that's an applause and laugh line in itself.
Yeah, absolutely. SNL has its work cut out for them this year, and with everything that's going on with Trump into his later on in his first year of presidency, they have their work cut out for them for the next few seasons. Yeah, absolutely. So I can't wait to see what they'll have for what they're doing with Trump and his cabinet this fall and onward. So I can't wait for that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. All right. Thank you for the call.
All right, Jeff, thank you very much. Thank you for accepting my comment, and have a great weekend.
You too, man.
Thank you for the work you're putting on the channel. Thank you very much for everything.
I appreciate it. Thanks. I will catch you later. All right. Great segment that I have. This is the this is the epic rant that one of Tom MacArthur's constituents has. I guarantee you'll love this. Now, it turns out people are not happy with the congressman that saved Trump Care. This is Congressman Tom MacArthur. Now, he recently held a town hall in some not-so-friendly territory. This is the 3rd District of New Jersey. Now, in this district, and I have to give him a little bit of credit here. Now, this constituent, or I'm sorry, this district had 90% of his constituents that voted against him. Damn. And most of the constituents, I believe 91%, voted against Donald Trump in the election. So this was not very friendly territory, very unfriendly territory. So I do have to give him a little bit of credit for actually showing up, because unlike most Republicans don't show up to their, or haven't been showing up to their town halls because they're afraid of reasons such as this. Now, that's where my credit ends, because after all, he did vote for this horrendous piece of legislation called Trump Care. And he also came up with the amendment to allow people to be charged more if their coverage lapses. And also, if they live in states that opt out of the protection for people with pre-existing conditions, known as the community rating, that would also, unfortunately, remove protections for people with pre-existing conditions. Now, because of that and other the horrible things in this bill, his constituents in this area took him to task. Now, I'm going to focus on one. His name is Jeff Ginter. And look, he has taken the internet by storm with this epic rant. So I'm going to show you some pieces of this, and I suggest you check out the whole video. But I'm going to take some pieces. I'm going to do some commentary on it. And then, well, we'll show you where this leads. Now, let's take a look.
In March, you told us that you practically broke your arm patting yourself on the back for not voting in January to just eliminate the ACA. You told us that that was because you didn't think that healthcare could be solved in a couple of months. It's too complicated. It took you 3 weeks. 3 weeks to go from it's too complicated and it can't be done quickly to I've got a huge pile of excrement here that is a horrible mess of a bill that 17% of the population wanted, that the CBO said was going to kick 24 million people off of health insurance. 3 weeks, Congressman. 3 weeks, Tommy boy. That's all it took for you to go from I'm not going to do it that quickly to I've got a yes vote in my pocket and I'm going to use it. They took that vote off the bill because they knew that it wasn't going to pass. I thought, thank God. Thank God. We're not going to have to do that. It took a couple of days, and a couple of more days, and then suddenly we got the MacArthur Amendment. Congratulations. You're in history now. You're in the national spotlight. And that's one thing I want to talk about, the national spotlight. You keep talking about all the constituents that you have to adhere to. And over in this county, they believe one thing, and over in this county, they believe another thing. And you're trying to thread that needle. Well, you haven't threaded it at all. Everyone that is going to be losing from this, you have not addressed.
Okay, look, I already love this guy. So he's pointing out the hypocrisy of this bill, right? So, oh, no, healthcare is complicated, they told us. And then suddenly, we're going to ram this thing through as fast as we can. You know why? Because it's actually not healthcare. This is a giant tax cut for the rich. And they wanted to ram this thing through before the CBO could score it and tell everybody how awful it is. So it's a tax cut for the rich. And of course, that doesn't get addressed enough. But what is going to get addressed, and by this guy, and he does a wonderful job doing so, is how much it actually is going to hurt people, especially families that are not fortunate enough to have good health insurance or money. Let's take a look at that.
Oh, we haven't even begun. I'm not done with you yet. I got the mic, and I'm not going anywhere. Turn off the power. I got a very loud voice. This ain't over yet. My wife was diagnosed with cancer when she was 40 years old. She beat it, but every day, she lives with it. She thinks about it. Every pain, every new something going on somewhere, is it coming back? Is this cancer? Do I have it again? Is it going to kill me this time? Is it going to take me away from my children? Speaking of which, my children both have pre-existing conditions from birth. One cardiac, one thyroid. You have been the single greatest threat to my family in the entire world. You are the reason I stay up at night. You are the reason that I can't sleep. What happens if I lose my job? I'm very fortunate, sir. I have a really good job, and I have really good health insurance. If I lose my job, we can't afford Cobra. We can't afford to get private insurance. We get it from my employer. If I lose it, it's gone. If I lose my job on a Monday, if I'm lucky enough to find a job on a Tuesday, which never happens, they will not have insurance ready for me. I will not be eligible for 3 to 6 months. If I lapse my coverage within 63 days, suddenly I'm in a high-risk pool. My pre-existing conditions, which I don't give a shit about. Come after me. Come after me, I don't care. But you came after my wife. You came after my kids.
And that's exactly what they did. That MacArthur Amendment would come after the people like that with pre-existing conditions. You lose your job. This guy's absolutely on it. He's right. You lose your job, it does take more than 63 days to get insurance through another job. It's another way to screw you and put you into those high-risk pools where you end up paying a ton more. So this guy is, again, this guy knows what's going on. He is woke as fuck. Now, this is also like what Jimmy Kimmel was pointing out, that he got a lot of heat for and a lot of credit for. Without his insurance and without his wealth, because, again, he admits, he's like, yeah, I'm super, super fortunate. I was able to afford to go to Children's Hospital, Los Angeles. I've got the money. I'm a very fortunate person. But what happens to the people who don't have insurance and can't afford this? Well, they die, or their children die. And it's all because of greed. But, of course, the Republicans and people who are, by the way, the Democrats that are also in favor of for-profit health care, well, they say, no, it's all about choice. See, it's all about choice. It's like shopping for gumballs. It's like shopping for a house, shopping for a car. That's what healthcare is supposed to be like. Well, Ginter also addressed that point. And, again, he's on fire.
They said it. They said that if we get sick, it's our fault. These are the people that are in your party, that you're working with. These are the people that came up with a plan that's going to kill millions of people. The CBO scored it. 24 million people off of health insurance. And they called that choice. Like we're choosing not to have health insurance if we can't afford it. That is insulting. That is detrimental to the mental health of us as a nation. But all of it totally misses the point. Healthcare is not a good. You do not buy health insurance the same way you buy a car, the same way you buy a house. Those are already complicated things to do. I work in healthcare, sir. It is complicated. The only one that doesn't believe that it's complicated is an orange-haired buffoon sitting in the White House. And you're working with him to take something that he doesn't understand, that he won't be responsible for, because he's going to be fine.
And that's it. That's an excellent point. See, you don't understand. The Republicans and people like Trump, they don't get it. They don't understand this. And look, our president said, well, I never knew healthcare would be so complicated. That's because he's never had to deal with this. And that's the whole point. Trump and the others, they've never had to deal with not having enough money to pay for their health care. They have a health problem. They got all this money. They can go and just pay for it out of pocket. What's the problem? I go to a doctor. I give them a whole bunch of money because I have a whole bunch of money, and then they treat me. Why is it so hard? It's because you have money and they don't. You don't have to weigh between paying the house payment or getting a cancer treatment or keeping the lights on versus getting your heart medication that you need to survive. They don't understand that that's something that people actually go through in America. They look at it from their perspective, their privileged perspective, and say, well, I've got all this money and I've got great health insurance, either through work or, again, I've got a ton of money. I can just go into the private market, get every plan, any plan that I want. I've got all this choice. Well, yeah, I can go and do whatever I want. I can get whatever I want. Why can't everybody else do that? It's because they don't have the money. It's because you don't understand. You are disconnected from regular people and what regular people go through. And that, of course, leads me into this final clip, which is, I believe, is my favorite part of this entire thing.
Health insurance as a for-profit business is immoral. When I am drowning and you insist that I pay before you will save me, that is immoral, sir. Completely. You have no legs to stand on. You want to make money off of me. If you're in insurance, you want money off of me. And the reason that it's not going to go to single payer is not because you don't believe it. It's because you know that the insurance companies have a powerful lobby and they would decimate you. Donald Trump has woken us up. 30, 40 years. And we have been slowly going to sleep. Just watch your reality TV. It's American Idol on at 8 o'clock. That's what's important. That's what they want. No more. I don't want to hear your response. I'm not interested. I've heard it already. I heard it in Waretown. I've been watching you on TV, and I read the bill that you sponsored. I read the one that you were willing to say yes to. I know exactly what's going on, Congressman. I'm not an idiot. I see it. Everyone here knows what's going on. Everyone in the country knows what's going on. You owe it to everyone. Your fundamental principle is flawed. I don't have any choice with an insurance company. I have no value to an insurance company. I can't do anything to their CEO. I can't do anything to their employee. Nothing. I can argue till I'm blue in the face. But a single payer run by the government, oh yeah, it's got problems, but it's also got elections, and you're going to find that out in 2018.
Wow. I just gotta say this. Because you can't, I'll do it for you. A dramatic effect. All right, I love that. I love that story. All right, let's move to the final story of the night. Little mic drop there. All right, this is actually this is a Trump story. So we'll kind of end up with story on Donald Trump. If you want to call in. Let's see. Oh, no, wrong one. You want to call us 989-796-4975 TYT Nation on Skype. Get a hold of us. Again, I'm going to do the story on Donald Trump because I think it's very interesting what's going on. Okay. Now, the Comey disaster continues to get worse for President Trump as the FBI is beginning to rally around its former head. And it turns out that he seemed to have been well liked by the FBI, by people in the Bureau. That's very interesting. Now, with the entire thing essentially blowing up in Donald Trump's face, we now have the President of the United States threatening the former director of the FBI on Twitter. Here we go. In a tweet, Trump suggested that there might actually be tapes of a private conversation between he and Comey. Now, let's see. He tweets out, James Comey better hope that there are no tapes, in quotation marks, of our conversations before he starts leaking to the press. Well, now, wait a minute. Did you just admit that you might have been wiretapping James Comey? Oh, no, see, it's in quotation marks, which, according to Spicer, doesn't actually mean physical wiretapping. No, it just means some sort of surveillance activity. Oh, that's very interesting. Now, the Washington Post notes that Trump used a similar construct in 2 of his March 4th tweets, accusing President Obama, without any evidence, of course, of wiretapping his campaign offices. Trump put out the words, wires tapped, in quotation marks, which White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer later argued meant only surveillance activities, more broadly as opposed to physical, actual wiretapping, which would be illegal. Now, so maybe he wiretapped him and maybe he didn't. Okay, I don't know. What I do know is that Trump's a pathological liar. So I honestly have no idea if he did it or if he didn't did it or what he could actually gain from this. Right now, it seems like he is desperate and unhinged. Okay. So, now the Post also writes that Trump's tweet about Comey was also likely a reaction to the New York Times report published on Thursday night, detailing a one-on-one dinner Trump had with Comey shortly after the inauguration. Now, Trump is out there claiming, Comey came to me, begged for his job. I said no. Or maybe. I don't know. Okay, interesting. Now, the report said that Comey has told associates that during that dinner, Trump asked Comey during their conversation to pledge his loyalty to him, not once, but twice. Hey, Comey, will you pledge yourself? Kiss my ring. Kiss my ring, Comey. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to kiss your ring. How about you kiss my ass? I'm not going to stop investigating you in Russia. I'm not going to stop doing my job. And like, right or wrong, what he did to Hillary Clinton, I believe was ridiculous and wrong. Certainly Trump doesn't agree with that. But look, you can't just go around and swear fealty to a president. And that's exactly what Trump, according to this report, was trying to get Comey to do. And Comey says, I'm not interested. Okay. Now, the other part about that is that is kind of something that dictators do. Again, kiss my ring, right? No, your loyalty to the FBI director should be to the people and to the Constitution, not just to one particular president. This is Nixon type of shit, okay? Now, in fact, presidential historian Michael Beschloss tweeted, presidents are supposed to have stopped routinely taping visitors without their knowledge when Nixon's taping system was revealed in 1973. That was a big, big scandal of what happened. So, okay, big scandal. So if this happened, which we don't know because we don't have any physical proof of it, but Trump just said it, which makes you think, do you have tapes? Are you taping people? Why would you do that? Or why would you admit that? That's weird. What is going on here? What is going on here? I mean, if this is, say this is true. So what are you afraid of? And what are you afraid is going to be revealed by James Comey? What would he leak to the press? What are you worried about? If there's nothing there, then why tweet out this specific threat? See, this is weird. This is very, very strange. And again, very strange, right? Now, first you fire him, right? Then we get some ridiculous excuse about why you fired him. Oh, no, I'm defending my good friend Crooked Hillary, which, by the way, I said should be locked up, should go to prison. Oh, really? You're defending her honor? That's weird. I don't believe that for a second. And not only that, then you say when that whole excuse fell through, he was just doing a bad job. He was bad at his job. Well, what was his job? Oh, his job was investigating you. Oh, that's what it was. Interesting. Now, also, after that, you also said, oh, you know what? I fired Comey because he was a showboat. He was a grandstander. That's what he was. I'm a completely humble person, but you sir, are grandstanding. on this whole thing. I had to get rid of you. Really? Turns out he can't stand people who grandstand, which, again, I don't think Comey was doing. As much as I don't like him, I don't think Comey was grandstanding at all. I generally believe that he believes that he was doing the right thing in both the Hillary case and with Trump. And now, after all this, you threaten him. Well, it makes people think, even if you've done nothing wrong, the way that you have played this makes a lot of people think that, what has the FBI got on you? For you to go out and to make these irrational threats for no reason. Well, maybe there's a reason there. I don't know. Maybe there is nothing. Or maybe that's why they're investigating. His reaction makes it feel as if there might be something to find. And maybe there is, and maybe there isn't. But doing this, he's only making the situation worse by acting like a fucking child. Look, he's a baby. He's got no control. Baby, sad. Disaster. No idea what he's doing. His administration at this point seems to be falling apart. And all while this is happening, by the way, and all while the media is concerned and is talking about these tweets, Trump's cabinet is making sure that they do as much damage as possible. Jeff Sessions, he's escalating the drug war. He's trying to cut taxes. Trump's trying to cut taxes on rich people himself and corporations. Doing another giant tax holiday where the rich are going to rake in billions of dollars. He's trying to destroy your health care. He's eliminated a lot of Obama regulations on the environment. He's doing all this stuff, and his administration is doing all this stuff behind the scenes, while we are all distracted with his shenanigans. Is there something here? Is there something here? I don't know, but it is very interesting to talk about, and unfortunately, it does tend to distract from some of the stuff he's actually doing. And now, I think that there is something going on. And that maybe there is maybe this is a distraction, or maybe he is going down and he's going to try to take as much of the government he can down with him. Ironically, if some of you I know wanted to burn it down, well, you might actually start getting your wish, except that he's putting a torch to everything that is good and decent in the government and bringing back everything that is bad. So, look, to me, if you ask me for my personal opinion, and again, I don't have a ton of proof on this. I do a lot of speculation when it comes to Trump or Russia, and I'm honest about that. But to me, the way that it looks to me is that it's not an issue of, or not a question of whether or not Trump is going down. It is a question of when he is going down and just how much damage he's going to do on his way out. Again, that's my opinion. I could be wrong on this. But from everything that I've seen, it is way too suspicious. There is way too much stuff, way too many questions going on for me to just simply ignore it outright. So I'm being very suspicious of the government. I'm being very suspicious of Trump, and very suspicious of everything that's going around. And I think a lot of people would be served better by asking more and more questions. All right, anyway. We'll take one more call, and then we'll end the show. So let me put up the number. 989-796-4975, TYT Nation on Skype. So give us a call. It's your Friday show. We'll save the Jeff Sessions for Monday, which will be an interesting story. Pot story. Sort of, but not really. So, again, give us a call. 989-796-4975, TYT Nation on Skype. Give you guys a minute here to dial in. And let's see. And let me try to fix this. And I'm not sure if you guys are getting low volume or not. That's weird. I haven't changed any settings. Just let me know. Here we go. We've got a call. Hello, you're on the air. Do you have a comment or a question?
Yes. My question is, since Jeff Sessions is ramping up his war on drugs,
He is.
and enforcing maximum sentences. Would that also include how they usually do take the people's property and bankrupt them and just give them no recourse to get out of the situation? And how will it affect the country if this continues to go on?
Well, I mean, we've already seen the effect on the country, and more incarceration rates, more money spent on drug enforcement, more militarization of the police. I see a lot of that coming back, unfortunately. I mean, because again, Sessions wants to put 1980s style, hard on, drugs, whatever, tough on crime legislation back into the justice system, and that's going to bring it back to what it was like back in the 1980s when we were doing these. More incarcerations, more money being wasted, more power to the cartels too. By the way,
exactly. I mean, because the whole war on drugs with Mexico, with us bringing them importing drugs in ours, and our opium crisis, it's all connected. Because we have immigrants come up here to get away from the violence that is going on down here, and now we're denying them any safe haven away from that. It's just like double indemnity. I'm damned if I do, and I'm damned if I don't.
Yeah, and that's going to end up, and you make a really good point, because I just focused on what was happening in the United States, but you bring up a great point. These Latin American countries that are being devastated by a drug war right now, you're going to end up seeing more death, more destruction, thanks to the violence of the cartels, more people disappearing. I mean, you'll see, and again, this is speculation, but I think you're going to see even more violence and even more unsafe areas within Mexico.
And it's going to bleed over to our side of the, border. There's no way it won't.
And we're not getting a Trump-sized wall, so that's so we're going to lead to, and even if we did, there's tunnels and stuff, and there's airplanes and there's boats, and people will find their way across the border. And then what's going to happen is Trump going to bring out the deportation force, and then waste more taxpayer money trying to send people across the border and filling tunnels. It's going to be a nonstop debacle, and it's going to cost billions of dollars.
It's going to cost our country lives and just a whole generation gone.
And to get back to your first thing that you mentioned, civil asset forfeiture. Look, I didn't see anything in the memo specifically that addressed the return of civil asset forfeiture, but knowing that was a product of the drug war in the 1980s,
it is.
I could see a definite return to that. And I mean, especially since it wasn't even phased out.
Before you're proven innocent, and even if you're innocent, they still don't give back your property.
Yeah, and when you try to get back your property, and I've talked about this before, it's incredibly difficult to do so. You have to go to court, and look, they take all your money, they take your property, they take your car, your house, seize your bank account. How are you supposed to get a lawyer if you don't have any money to be able to fight the court? And it's very difficult to go up against the court's lawyers. So, in most cases, you're never getting your stuff back.
No.
And that's a huge problem. And Obama tried to do a little bit of something about it, but it wasn't enough to say that we have to completely.
He just kind of sat on it, and he just kept deporting people. And he really did not really address the issue. He just hid it under the rug. And, now that we're awake, I love your show.
Thank you.
It has taught me so much. I mean, I just felt like the whole 8 years of Obama, I was asleep until I finally woke up.
Yeah.
And seeing what the truth was.
It's that tranquilizing drug of gradualism, as MLK had put it. I think it's MLK Jr.
Yeah, Trump has torn the Band-Aid off, and there's a huge gap.
Just like that man in the video, in one of the last segments, talked about. He says, we're woke up now. Like, we've woke up thanks to Donald Trump. And look, I think that's what Jimmy Dore was talking about too when he was always on the Young Turks. And he'd say, no, the left is asleep.
You can't put it back in the box. The genie's already out.
And we were asleep during Obama, and we would have stayed asleep if Clinton had won. If there's one positive that you could find from a Trump presidency, it's the fact that everybody is awake now. And I don't think we would be...
and that's the only good thing about Trump being president.
Absolutely.
Our eyes are open.
And also, we might not be talking about it on the Hill, but when it comes to regular people, they're talking about, we're having conversations about Medicare for all. I don't think we would be having this conversation if we had Hillary Clinton, if there wasn't this existential crisis happening to Obamacare.
No. I mean, I have lived through the Vietnam era, the whole George Wallace era, and always thought there's always something better. Why can't these politicians get their stuff together? You know, but it was just like they kept pushing it down whenever anybody would say something against it. Right. And then Ralph Nader was trying to go against them, and they shut him down like big time.
They did. And look, you know, there's that, and I always get tired when they use this argument, when the corporate Democrats, Nader cost Gore the election. Well, not necessarily. That's not actually the truth of it. Gore was your Clinton back then. And you look back then, and there's so many parallels between Clinton versus Trump, Gore versus Bush. It's just that Clinton is Gore taken to an extreme, and Trump is Bush taken to an extreme. Stupider, even more destructive. But the same kind of thing. The establishment versus somebody else. Now, look, Bush is establishment. He never was the outsider. But that's the only part of that thing that doesn't exactly line up with 2016. Because I said during the whole thing, during the whole election, this is where a lot of the rules got tossed out. You had a real outsider versus the establishment candidate.
Yeah, and I have come from the old culture where if you lie, you're called on it. And now the media calls nothing a lie. They're just like,
down the middle.
You know, if we look at it this way, it's going to kind of be true, but you're going, it's a lie. It's a lie. Why can't you say that?
Access. Money and access. I mean, ratings and access.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people tend to not realize that these news companies are giant multinational corporations, or they're tied to their parent companies are giant multinational corporations, with a lot of them tied with defense contractors, like in the case of MSNBC. And so, their main point is to make profit, to get money. And how do you get money? You get ratings. You get ratings from the older demographic, and I apologize. I know you're part of that demographic, but you're actually not, because you're one of the people.
But you know what? I've always been a rebel, even against my demographic. I have never, I always thought that our generation sold out because we were supposed to change the world, and we sold out because, once we started earning money and seeing how good it is, screw rebelling, screw other people's rights. It just that has always been my take on it, and it's kind of hard being one person trying to stand against the tide.
Yeah.
But I've always tried to do it in little ways, but that water just gets real deep.
Well, it's important to realize, though, and thanks to the internet, you realize you're not alone. And I think that's the best thing about the internet.
I'm so glad I found TYT and Around the Nation, because it gives me a voice. And I think I would have gone crazy if I hadn't had one.
Yeah, TYT Nation, well, not TYT Nation, but TYT, the Young Turks main show.
Yeah.
That's where I originally found that. And I don't know if you're familiar with the story of how I found, the Young Turks, but it was during a time of course, economic depression, where I had lost my job. I was injured on the job and got fired, essentially, for being hurt, which I was like, that's fucking ridiculous.
Sounds familiar.
Mm-hmm. And, you watch news, and I found, Cenk on MSNBC right before he got replaced with Al Sharpton. And I told Cenk this story, too, because I was able to meet him last October for, like, the first time ever. And that was, like, super cool to be able to meet him. And I told him that story. He's like, well, at least something good came out of MSNBC.
Yeah.
And
I'm still catching up with everyone's story because I really started watching all this in January. And so there are a lot of things that I'm still learning about the progressive movement, because I've always wanted to find the progressive movement, because the right and the left, I'm to be simplified, they're both crazy. I mean, it's like one's too hot, one's too cold.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing in the middle that just, takes people's situation into account.
Yeah, and like, where is the middle these days?
I don't know.
It's
I mean,
not the
middle
center.
has disappeared.
It's like, oh, it's the center. No, it's actually not the center. The center is not the middle. The center is way off to the right. So where's the middle? Like, where are the people who care about our concerns? Who care about the workers? Who care about regular people? Who don't have to care about big donors or any sort of special interest groups? Where are those people? Where are those people in Congress? And there are very few. And there are very few newscasters who also represent that. Because most newscasters sit in a desk and make millions and millions of dollars. Well, I can guarantee I make less than I did when I was working in the factory. So doing this. So I'm one of those people who, grew up doing manufacturing and being around and being in that group of people that are being screwed over, that are being squeezed, that are having their jobs outsourced. And it's frustrating because when you have that perspective, when you're in that perspective and you look at the newscasters and you look at the politicians and you realize, good God, nobody represents me. We don't care about, like cutting taxes for rich people. What about our taxes? What about our income? I'm hardly making enough money to be able to pay my rent. Why do I care about rich people's taxes? How's that going to help me? Oh, it's going to create more jobs. Has it, though? That doesn't seem to make any sense.
No, the income equality has gone beyond absurd.
Yeah.
It is to a point where lying, if you're kind of like middle class, like which I am,
mm-hmm.
And you're poor, you are beneath their notice.
Well, poor people have terrible lobbyists, by the way. That's why.
They do. They do. But, I didn't get where I was by not being helped by other people, getting an education, going into the military. All those steps helped me to get where I am. So when I get the opportunity, I actually like to help someone out.
Yeah.
I guess it's like say it, pay it forward, because we are not born alone. We should have people to support us and
mm-hmm.
teach us and move us up. Give that, to the people who are in the world instead of just stepping on them and telling them to disappear.
Right.
It's not right.
You're absolutely right. And growing up, I've had a lot of help, and and I've been thankful to everybody. And you know, I've been trying to do my best to pay it forward as well, to help other people out and advocate for policies to help other people out. Because I think it's important.
Correct.
I think we're all in this. We're all supposed to be
I
one
mean,
nation.
we're all in this together. I mean,
Absolutely.
I'll always be here, you know, on your channel because it helps me vent when I'm upset by whatever drama has gone on that day. So
Yeah.
I'm, you know, we're blessed to have you on the show
Well,
to give us a voice.
well, thank you.
And I really enjoyed the drop the mic because he said everything that I've always thought and felt, you know, about this healthcare debacle.
Yeah, he's the guy's amazing, and his I mean, he was serving it to that congressman, and I loved every second of that. And that's what you do. I mean, that's how you put your congressman on notice, your elected official. There's nothing I didn't love about that.
There's one thing that I also wanted to bring up because I ran across a story on Twitter where the FBI shut down what was it called? The strategic, I wrote it down. It was called it is a company that does all the GOP fundraising.
Yes.
And they closed it down for investigation, and it is linked to Paul Manafort. And
Very interesting.
Something about the inconsistencies. I just had the name.
It is the
because I
Strategic
wanted-
Campaign Group. I just looked that up. I saw the story, but I didn't have time to really read into it. But you know, this is reported in the Hill actually. It's a Republican fundraising and campaign consulting outlet or consulting firm in Maryland. It was founded during 2008, and it's represented Republican candidates from across the from around the country.
Now, I think that is another link in the story, and it comes in somewhere.
Very interesting. I'll have to look into how it really, really connects with all the other stuff that's been happening in the Trump administration with the Russia and with Manafort and Flynn, and how that all seems to connect into Trump, and whether or not there's a financial deal going on between Trump and Russia. Very, very interesting stuff. There's a lot of threads to connect.
Yeah.
So it's going to
Thank
be
you
very
for your
interesting to
time.
unravel. Well, thank you for calling in.
And I want to say hi to all my bros on the feed because they're all like making fun of me.
Oh, well, thank you, Karen. And if that's you, I assume it's you.
It is. It is. I'm Karen.
Hi. Thank you so
take
much.
Care.
You too.
Bye.
And I want to thank you, of course, for being on the channel. Because without you guys on the channel,
I
there
know.
wouldn't
I
be a
love
show.
your whole logo because I'm always pointing at the screen.
Thank Dan Spearn for that. He was the one who designed it. He's an amazing guy. So all the thanks for all my logos and stuff. The guy's amazing.
Yeah, he is. Thank you.
All right. Thank you,
Bye.
Karen. All right. So thank you, everybody who gave me a call today. What we're going to say, you guys are awesome. As usual, awesome questions, awesome feedback. So thank you so much for calling in, making this Friday amazing. So thank you so much. We're going to leave it at that. So I want to wish you guys a wonderful weekend, a happy Mother's Day, if that's the day. Yeah, I think it is Mother's Day. I'm so bad at dates that I don't even remember holidays anymore. So disaster, sad. I'm terrible. Like I need to be reminded of holidays. That's how much I work on this shit. So, all right. But if it is indeed Mother's Day on Sunday, then happy Mother's Day, everybody. Hopefully you guys have an awesome, amazing weekend. I love every one of you guys. Thank you. Thank you for supporting us in the show. Thank you for supporting us on Patreon. if you also do that. Thank you so much. And what can I say? We'll wish you guys a very good weekend. And remember, change begins with you. Have a great weekend, TYT Nation. Also, no microphones were harmed in the filming of the show.